much, Anna. What an inspirational opening. It's going to be an amazing few days. And as I said, it's a great privilege to be here and be part of such a momentous occasion. And I'm really happy to be here talking about the power of difference and the value that we see in difference in the world. And I wanted to start with a moment of reflection, really, about, why do we care about diversity? Why do we care about having different opinions around the table? And I wanted to tell you a story of when I was, as Anna said, more than 20 years I've been in this business. So a long, long time ago, more than 20 years ago. And I was first working at a big corporation. And I asked my brand manager at the time, why do we spend so much money on agencies? Surely there's enough creativity inside this huge organization that we could come up with ideas for advertising ourselves. And she told me that question had been asked many times before. And actually, one time the brand team even pitched themselves in a competition against the creative agency. And there was a proposition, there was an advertising campaign to be created for a suitcase that was waterproof. And that was the challenge, to come up with an advertising campaign and a storyboard to show the power of this waterproof suitcase and all the benefits. So off they went, they split into their groups. There was the corporate teams, and then there was the creative team at the agency. And the corporate teams all brought back their adverts, and they were all storyboards, really showing the visualization of the benefits. The suitcase was being rained on, the suitcase was put in water, and all the time the contents of the suitcase stayed dry. And then came the turn of the creative. And the creative's brief was very different. His storyboard was the image of a man arriving at a train station with a suitcase, totally dry. He gets onto a train, he takes a very long journey. He gets off the train, he gets into a taxi, all the time with the suitcase. He arrives at a beach and he walks down the beach and he opens up the suitcase when he reaches the sea, and inside the suitcase is water and a fish. And he releases the fish into the ocean. And of course, the team were blown away by this. And I was really inspired. And it's always been a story that I hold with me when I remember that how having different perspectives around the table really brings unique perspectives and allows people to look at problems from a completely different way. And really, we know that diversity is important in the world, in organizations and in companies. We know that more diverse companies are more innovative, are more creative. I think the latest IBM report that I read this year suggested that of all the top grossing companies in the world, the ones that have gender diverse leadership are producing 19% higher revenue growth than their peers. So it's a no-brainer that difference is important, and it's a no-brainer that it brings value. But I still wonder, why is it then so hard if this is such a straightforward proposition? And to reflect on the answer to that question, I wanted to take you back even further. This is 1986. This is me, and apologies for the grainy photograph. This was well before the days of digital. I was at sixth form college. My boyfriend was in a rock band. Life was great. My enormous hair was sprayed rock solid. And I was feeling really good about the world. And one day my tutor said to me, "Sue, you should apply to Oxford or Cambridge University." And for those who aren't familiar, Oxford and Cambridge are very prestigious, very academic universities in the UK. And I was very intimidated by this suggestion. I mean, really, nobody in my family had ever been to university before, and certainly not to a university like that. And I felt very nervous. But I was really spurred on by my parents' encouragement and pride. And so dutifully, I trotted down to the classroom where there was a lunchtime session happening to explain to people the application process for these universities. And as I arrived at the classroom and poked my head around the door and asked innocently, is this the place for the Oxbridge applications? The teacher, male, middle-aged, white, looked at me. And as I stood there in the doorway, he said, "You do realise you'll be expected to get A's, don't you?" And I was taken aback. I can feel that sense of humiliation and the sense of shame and embarrassment that I felt at that time, standing in the doorway of this classroom in front of everybody. But I shook it off. I walked into the room. I assured him that wouldn't be a problem. I sat down in the room where, admittedly, no one else looked like me. And I was the only person from my sixth form college who got into either Oxford or Cambridge that year. I spent 4 very happy years at Cambridge University, and I'm very grateful to that teacher for the way he inadvertently spurred me on and encouraged me. But I've had a similar experience to this many, many times over the intervening 30 or so years. And I know many of you who are listening today have also had those experiences. That feeling of I am not welcome, that feeling of I don't fit in, that feeling that I'm different. And I think it's very fair to say that our very presence as women in the world of technology challenges the accepted norms and makes people feel very uncomfortable and very confused. And, women are very underrepresented in the world. In a UN study in 2020, they identify that of all the highest grossing firms in the world, only 7% of the CEOs are women. We know these facts. We know that globally, 1 in 4 of the parliamentary seats that are held by women. And we know that in the media, in the news, across television, radio, newspapers, of all the people heard or represented or talked about, only 24% are women. So our difference is very tangible. It's out there and there's no escaping it. So what do we do with this information? The social media and the memes would have us stand out and be proud. Many of you must have seen this motivational saying, be a flamingo in a flock of pigeons. Stand tall, stand proud, be pink, be loud when everyone else is being grey and quiet. And it's a lovely idea. It's very motivating. It's very inspiring, and it feels like a great thing to do. But actually, we've already seen that being different makes others uncomfortable. And I don't know about you, but being different makes me really uncomfortable. I feel very embarrassed. And I think as human beings, difference is not something that is part of our DNA. It's not part of our comfort zone. We're innately tribal creatures. We are designed to be the same. Sameness is safety for us. And our desire to fit in will prevail, often even over logic, actually. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the ASH experiment that was done in the 1950s in the US. It was an experiment about conformity. And there was a participant who unknowingly in each experiment was the only person, and the rest of the group were all in on the experiment. And the group was asked to look at a set of lines and to answer very simply which 2 lines were the same length. And the answer was very obvious. And as the group started to give their answers, you could see the participant who didn't know they were the only person getting really uncomfortable because they were giving the wrong answer, every single person, with a lot of confidence. And when it got to the participant, 3/4 of the people tested actually conformed to the group's consensus and actually gave the wrong answer, even though they knew it was wrong. And when they were interviewed afterwards, they gave one of 2 reasons for their response. They either felt like they were terrified to be ridiculed. They felt embarrassed and uncomfortable to be the one saying something different from everyone else around the table. Or they thought the group must know something that they didn't know. And so they doubted their own judgment and their own truth and their own reality. So what do we do? What do we do with this knowledge that difference is important in the world, and we know it's needed, and we know that as women in IT, we bring value, but also that we're uncomfortable with being different? Do we fit in and do we adapt to survive? Or do we stand out? Do we stand strong? And do we use the voice that Anna was just talking about to make a difference and stand up for the underrepresented? And you don't have to work too hard to guess what my preference would be. My hope is that we can all find a way to do the latter. Diluting our difference, diluting our voice, sublimating our uniqueness is not what the world needs and is not a healthy happy place or way to live. Um, so I guess the way I think about this, I don't know how you can find a way to stand up strongly and speak your difference and stand for your uniqueness. But what I thought I might do today, very briefly, was share with you a mantra that I share with my daughters, who are 12 and 14, every day, to remind them how to stand strong and proud in the world. And I tell them three things. I tell them to be brilliant. I tell them to be kind, and I tell them to have fun. So the first point is to be brilliant. It's really, really important to shine in your uniqueness, not to deny your authenticity, and to really own who you are. The way that I find over the years that helps me to stand strong is to connect my difference with a purpose, with something that is meaningful, purposeful, valuable, and something that I feel so strongly about that I can't be silent and I can't deny. My personal difference, my personal stand, I guess, is that I feel very connected to unleashing human potential in the world. It's the reason I work in IT and digital. I really, really believe in the power of this capability to transform the world for good and for the better. And so it's something I feel very connected with. And I really strongly believe in making sure that individuals' potential is able to shine. And I'm a real ambassador for those who are underrepresented, those who are not seen, those whose voice is not heard. So I strongly recommend for all of you that you do some work to reflect on your own brand and what you stand for, and you find a way to make that visible and to be part of what you do every day. The second point is to be kind. Once when I was working at another large corporation, I was having some coaching, and I was a member of the leadership team of a global infrastructure team. I was the only woman, and I was really struggling to feel included, to feel accepted, and to feel respected, actually, as part of that team, because the way I did things was very different. I had different ways of managing and partnering with my suppliers. I had different ways of leading teams and different ways of empowering people. And I was having some coaching, and my coach, who is an amazing woman called Karen Downs, and she runs a corporation called the Flourish Initiative, for anybody who wants to look her up. She said to me, "Sue, what role do you play in this?" And I was a bit shocked. I was very comfortable with my role as much maligned victim, and I didn't want to think that the way I was operating could be anything to do with the situation. And she suggested to me that I might bring my compassion to the table. And then I might step back and reflect that the men around the table don't wake up every day and say, "Oh, today I'm going to make Sue's life a misery, and today I'm going to ruin the world for a woman." They operate from their own belief system, from everything that they've been taught is good and right. And they're bringing the best of themselves to the table. And actually, my job is not to waste a lot of time feeling, maligned, mistreated, but really to invest in educating them and in helping them understand how the world needs to change and how their perspective needs to change. And I found this perspective and this lens very useful in the intervening years when I faced difficult situations and I felt mistreated or I felt misunderstood, just to walk in the shoes of the people around me and to understand kind of where they're coming from. And finally, it's so important to have fun. The Dalai Lama once famously said that the only meaning of life, the only purpose of life, is to find enjoyment and to find happiness. And I really believe in that. I mentioned that I have two daughters and they're 14 and 12, and I am a role model for them. My experience at work and the way I behave and talk about work is representation of work to them. And it's really important for me that they see me as enjoying work. And I don't always, I have to be honest. I have tough weeks, I have tough months, I have tough years sometimes, like we all do. And for me, what I really try to do is lean on my network. I really try to lean on my sisters. I lean on my allies. I lean on those around me who believe in me. And I try to celebrate the amazingly privileged role I have and we all have, because we are rewriting history. We are changing the world for the better. And it is frustrating and it is slow and it doesn't happen as quickly as we want it to happen. But it's an incredible privilege to be part of that transformational journey. And I think we should celebrate our wins and enjoy it. So I know there's a couple of questions and I think we'll have time for those. In summary, I would really hope for all of you that you can believe in the value of your unique difference and you can stand strong in that. I would hope that you can find your purpose, you can recognize your unique value in your voice, and you can shine and be brilliant in that uniqueness. I would encourage you to be kind and be compassionate and really think about, the challenges that other people face and the reasons why people behave in the way that they do and why they lack the understanding and the education that is so much needed. And I'd encourage you to have fun and really enjoy the journey. So Anna, I think there's a couple of questions. That's all I had to share.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much, Sue. I just must say that we couldn't wish for a better start of the global conference. And I really, really love the mantras that you shared with your daughters. And I'm going to be sharing that also with my daughter, who is just 3.5. But I think it's a good start. Be brilliant, be kind, and have fun. To own who you are, connect our difference with our purpose, and lean on those around you during hard time. These are my takeaways, and everyone who joined us, please share your takeaways. Someone from the chat already shared RT. She shared, I'm lucky my parents let me be who I want to be. And I think that this is beautiful. And I think once we tell our daughters, especially, the mantras that you shared, be who you want to be, and empower them from the early age during their whole life, and they're able to let them be able to lean on us during the hard times that you've been also shared. I think that also helped them build strengths and and become a great leaders, great people when they grow up.
Agree. Couldn't agree more, Anna. And thank you so much again for the privilege of being involved today. And I hope it's an amazing 4 days for everybody.
Yeah, thank you. We have a couple of questions. You shared these lovely mantras with your daughters. Did you receive a mantra from your parents that made you the person you are today?
What a great question. And I've never thought about it. But I did actually. My mum, who's 88 and an amazingly strong human being and a great role model for me, she used to say to me, Sue, it's really important to know your own worth. She would say, if you don't love yourself, you can't expect anyone else to love you. Other people are not going to love you. And so I guess that's something I've really internalized, that is very important to know the value of me and what I bring to the world and find a way to be confident in that.
Beautiful. Love that. And who was your role model? Did you have one when you were starting your own path?
My mom is an amazing role model, and I've talked about her. She's an incredibly strong and principled individual. And I've worked for, many people, men and women. I think I've had a couple of bosses, and I was reflecting on this recently in an activity I was doing when I was thinking about career pathing. And I had one boss when I was working at Unilever, actually. He was a man, and he was an amazing leader. And again, he spoke a lot about the value of freedom and creating space for individuals. And I loved working for him, but I had very small children and a very difficult life, and my dad wasn't very well. And I came in one day and I said, I really think I need to resign. I just can't do both these. I can't give all that I've got to give to this role, but also give everything I need to give to my family. And he said to me, I don't accept your resignation. He said, I need you to tell me what you need. And you will have that. And this was in a very big corporate, which as many of us know, are not very flexible. It's not very easy for people to create specific, unique opportunities from a career point of view, from a job point of view. And he did it. I said, well, this job would be great. He designed a specific job, leading strategy and transformation for him. I worked 3.5, 4 days a week. He was very flexible with days off and with holidays. And for me, he was an amazing role model because he taught me to ask for what I wanted. He taught me not to give up. And he taught me that unless you ask, you don't know whether you can get it. So he was an incredible, inspiring leader.
Truly inspiring. And that's, I think, one thought, when I shared in the beginning and what you shared right now, making workplaces work for women, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of accepting your resignation, he offered you a solution, say, what do you need, right? Yes. How can we solve this for you? And that's, I think, a beautiful example of how we can make workplaces work for women.
100%.
Thank you so much, Sue. This was beautiful. This was a great start of the conference, electric start of the conference. Love the message. And so thank you so much. Thank you. Very inspiring. So many inspiring people from Germany, from UK, from Switzerland, from Ireland, from Georgia, and so many more, Nigeria, joining just those who commented in the chat. So we have such a great diversity of people today. And thank you so much. This was a great start of the day. You energized us.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And see you at our future events. Looking forward to working
Will do, absolutely.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.